Well, it's the end of May, and you know what that means. Rancor month is also coming to an end, but it's not quite over because I had a few things, sort of random items from my collection that I wanted to show off. So, while we still have time, let's go ahead and do that. Some of these items I have shown in other videos, but, you know, not everyone will have seen those, and I'm just going to look at them briefly in any case, but I will link any videos that I've made about these items in the past in the video description, so you can take a look at that if you want to see more. What we have here is something that I've never included in a previous video. This is a Jabba's Palace nesting doll set. This came out a few years ago. You have the Rancor on the top level. Open him up, you have Jabba. Then you open Jabba, you have Leia. Leia has Bib Fortuna inside. And finally, inside Bib Fortuna, you have a teeny tiny little Salacious Crumb. So that's pretty cool. Definitely, you know, I have more than one set of Star Wars nesting dolls, as one would expect. But this is definitely, well, it's the only one that's Jabba's Palace themed. It's not the only one with a Jabba in it. Maybe we'll have to show you the other one at some other point, but definitely one of my favorite ones. And if you collapse them all like this, it looks like a Rancor collectible, so that's kind of cool too. Next up is something I have shown in a video in the past, but just real quick, this is the Regal Robot Rancor head magnet. And I learned recently, actually, that this is definitely made from the scan that they took of the Rancor puppet from Lucasfilm, but kind of, you know, reposed and everything to make his mouth closed, as opposed to the one that they used for their prop replica. But it's pretty cool to have a little version of him like this. And, you know, it's a good sculpt for sure. I think these might still be available from time to time. I don't know what the status is right now, but if it is available, I'll put a link in the video description. Next up is one of my favorite items, actually one of my favorite items, period. Certainly one of my favorite Rancor items. This is a ring from Jap Inc., which is kind of an unfortunate name for a Japanese company in particular, but in any case, it was a company that sold these sterling silver rings in the, I guess, early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s era. They had quite a large selection. I do have a Jabba, I have some other ones, but this one is one of their better ones, I think. If you look at the sculpt, it is extremely detailed and accurate, I think. He's got his little earring and his manacle, but the cool thing about it is that he kind of grabs onto your finger when you wear it. You can see like that. Now this is, you know, it's the kind of thing that you kind of have to be a certain type of person to be able to pull off wearing. I don't think I'm that type of person. And also it's a little tight for my ring finger in any case, but definitely one of the coolest items that I have for the Rancor. Next up, we have this item right here. I made a whole video about this, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but this is certainly one of the most unique Rancor collectibles. It is the Giga Rancor from Tiger Electronics in 1997. They also made one for Yoda and R2-D2, as I recall, and basically they were kind of capitalizing on the Tamagotchi, or Tamagotchi if you prefer, craze of that time. This, yeah, you know, it's a virtual pet where you raise the Rancor. You can feed him dancing girls or Gamorrean guards and clean up his poop and all that kind of stuff. I'll show all of that. I show all of that in the video that I made, so I'm not going to go through it here. But if you do want to look at that, definitely look in the video description or click up there. I recently replaced the batteries and brought him back to life, and I've been playing with it a little bit. It's definitely a fun little toy. Here's another quick one. This is the Rancor bottle opener from Celebration in 2015. That was Celebration Anaheim. It's got a magnet, fairly strong magnet on the back, so you can put it on your fridge, and then, you know, you just sort of go like that, and you can take bottle caps off. Works pretty well. I've used it a number of times, and it still looks just as good as new. So this next item is probably something you've never seen before. It is called a Degadar Racer, and it was from the line of Degadar Star Wars racers. Now, they had other ones for other properties in addition to Star Wars, I guess, so it was kind of an established line to some degree before they started trying to do Star Wars. But the kind of memorable thing about this one is that it failed right out of the gate. They did a test marketing thing in Tucson, Arizona, and on ToysRUs.com, so that's where I got this from. But, and you know, they had a plan for making maybe 100 or more characters that people would collect and so forth, but they never went beyond that sort of test phase. So these are actually pretty rare, I would imagine. What we see here is actually a case that opens up for the actual Degadar Racer, which is essentially a plastic marble. And they would have sort of race tracks that you could race them around, but also had these little readers like this one that you could place the marble on top of and then have it say some lines or sound effects associated with the character from the movies. So if we turn this on, obviously we get some R2-D2 sounds, but we put... Whoop, hold on a second. Put him on there, press the button, and it plays some Rancor-themed sound effects. I think there's about 3 of them that kind of play randomly. In any case, you get the point. They were also making... I don't know if they ever actually released it, but they were going to have some sort of video reader where it would like show a small video clip. That I don't think really went anywhere, as the entire line didn't really go anywhere, because I think, you know, this line, they weren't really sure what they wanted to do with it. It was kind of schizophrenic. It was a collectibles line. It was a racing line. It was this sort of electronic thing. And they were also really expensive. I think it was like $6 or so bucks, maybe something like that, per character. So, as I say, they never actually got to release characters like Jabba and so forth, which is a bit of a shame, but still, I'm glad I have this one. And we have here another similar item, although this one was a lot more successful. This is the Rancor Mighty Beanz. They did release, I guess, well, certainly dozens of these. I have a number of them myself just for Jabba's Palace, but they're just these plastic capsules with a ball bearing inside that kind of make it flop around. And they had, similarly with the Degadar racers, they had sort of sets or race tracks and things that you could use. Let's see. This one is, if we can get it to focus, it says Rancor number 49 and 2010. So it was right around the same time, I guess. I think these were all sort of capitalizing or trying to capitalize on the collectible toy kind of market at the time. They had things like Skylanders and stuff like that. A lot of stuff where you'd collect something and then, you know, there'd be a whole range of characters. I don't know. It kind of petered out after a while, but at least we did get some Rancors out of the deal. Next up we have kind of an unusual one. This is a Rancor-themed dump truck that Hot Wheels released in a 2-pack with Luke Skywalker. And this one, if you look, you can see a lot of Rancor-inspired things. Like here, this looks like his arm with the manacle on it. The front kind of looks like the Rancor's face right there. He's got a chain. And inside are a bunch of bones that actually come out if you want them to. So, I mean... Oh, he's also got the earring. I almost forgot about that. Yes. So, I mean, on the one hand, this is really bizarre, but I like this kind of thing too, because it does take a lot of creativity to kind of translate a character like this into a truck. Speaking of automotive-related Rancor collectibles, I guess, we've got this Rancor Rumble Set from Hot Wheels. It's a little too big to fit in the frame, but you can see there's Jabba's Palace up on the top, and then we have the Rancor here. There's a little thingy here that allows you to take a car, in this case the Gamorrean Guard car, or truck I guess, that came with the set. Take him up to the top and have him come all the way down in just a second here. Watch the Rancor. He sort of grabs him and makes him go into his mouth. Pretty cool. I made a whole video about this. If you want to see more in detail, just take a look up there. But yeah, definitely one of the more unusual collectibles. I'd originally planned to make a separate video just about 3D printed stuff, but I don't really have that much stuff to show you, and we're running out of time in Rancor month, so let's go ahead and put it on the end of this one. And let me show you this one first. This was the first 3D printed Rancor I think that I've ever made. This model is from Jeffro, and I blew it up to be quite a bit bigger. I showed the process of making this on my channel, by the way, but it's one of my earlier videos, so you can watch it if you like. Basically printed it. I used one of those wooden plaques you can get at a craft store, and some glue and sand and rocks to make a base, and then I decided to paint it in a sort of faux bronze style with some patina on it and so forth, and I think it actually looks halfway decent in real life. You can still see some flaws and 3D print lines if you look closely in certain places, but overall, not too bad. There we go. More recently, I did something from Desert Octopus. This is a shrunk down version of his Rancor model that he made by scanning the Hasbro action figure that I introduced in a previous video. This is resin printed and unfortunately is not articulated because the joints just don't work at this scale, but I think it looks pretty cool nonetheless. Nice amount of detail on there as well. It's a very good model in terms of detail. I printed this next item a few months ago when ChaosCoreTech and Fangs.com were doing a sort of collaboration where they released a Rancor model that ChaosCoreTech had designed for free on the Fangs website, which is kind of like Thingiverse, and they would have people print it and they'd randomly select a winner for something or other. I don't even remember what the prize was, but I decided, you know, if you're going to be having a contest where you're 3D printing something from Jabba's Palace, I can't not do it, and I had to go big, so I printed this on my biggest printer, the CR10 S5 from Creality, and you may not be able to tell this because it's way back compared to the way I have my camera situated normally, but it is just gigantic. It is basically the size of a small child. Now, the cool thing about this model, it's a nice model. It's well sculpted and everything. It's not the most detailed one in the world, and, you know, because I've blown it up a lot bigger than it was originally intended, there's, you know, a little bit of softness to it, but the nice thing about it is that it can print with no support material required. It just sort of prints straight up. And so if you wanted an easy print to do, this would be a good one, especially if you did it on a smaller scale than this one. I did have a few problems. I had a split here on the hand that I don't know what caused that. It might just be that my filament was getting old and had absorbed a little moisture. I also had a problem that was entirely my fault. I forgot to change the filament because this took basically 2 rolls of filament to print. Right around here it ran out of filament, and so what I had to do was kind of go back, figure out where exactly it had stopped printing, cut the model off there in the computer, and reprint it just starting from here on up, which, you know, normally I don't like trying to do that kind of thing because it doesn't often work that well, but it came out okay this time. It took days and days. I don't remember how long it took to print this, but I didn't want to start over, certainly. Anyway, cool thing, cool model. I don't know if I'm going to paint it at some point, possibly. But in any case, check that out on thanks.com. I think it's still available if you're interested. Last but far from least, we have this, which is a Rancor skull, 3D printed from 3D Kit Bash. That's where the original 3D model came from anyway. It was part of the Skull Wars line. I did a couple of videos about these, and I also printed, as I'll show you, a larger version of this for my review of the Creality CR10S5, which is the printer that I mentioned earlier. This is a pretty cool model, though, because it prints without support material, as I recall, and it also has a hinged jaw that really functions, which is pretty cool. Now, I wasn't satisfied with a tiny little version of this, of course, so first of all, I tried scaling it up quite a bit. I don't remember what scale this is relative to the other one. I also discovered that this one will fit a Jabba Tsum Tsum plush perfectly in its jaws, which I thought was somehow appropriate. In any case, this one, you know, that's pretty impressive. It's closer to maybe a human-sized skull, and it's fairly hefty. But it's not really Rancor size now, is it? So, when I was doing that printer review that I just mentioned, I decided to print this at a much, much larger scale. Boom. There it is. There's no way this is going to fit all the way in frame. It's gigantic, as you can tell. I will include a shot of it from the video about the CR10S5 that I mentioned, just to give you an idea of what this looks like in total. But, oh man, it's also very heavy, but it does still work. As, you know, you can see right here, the jaw still functions. And I'll have to say, certainly size-wise, this may be the most impressive thing that I've printed, aside from maybe the life-size Jabba, but that's a lot more pieces, and so it seems like a little bit of a different thing. Well, that's about it for Rancor Month, I guess. Let me know again if I have forgotten anything. I know for sure that I have not included every Rancor-related thing in my collection, because that would get a little boring, but it's most of it, for sure. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon. This video was brought to you by my Patreon supporters, including these Palace VIPs right here and Angelica Brady. If you'd like to support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, check out the link in the video description.